I'm reading a book. I just finished it today by Sam Burkholz, the founder of Shambhala Publishing. And it's an exquisite book. It's about a journey that he took when he died. He actually died twice. And he took a journey into the bardo, into the hell realms. And it's an exquisite description, illustrated by a Tibetan artist. It's a fascinating book. It's a little disturbing for those of us that are sensitive, because it's actually quite descriptive. But he's taking an experience that he had upon dying, and he's using it as a method of teaching something. He's a Tibetan teacher, studied deeply with several Rinpoches, including Trungpa. And he's also using it as an opportunity to put forth some Buddhist wisdom about the 6 realms of rebirth and the cosmology that is implied in Buddhism and the teachings that are implied here. It's an exquisitely written book. And to write such a book, of course, is rather difficult. Putting it in a story form, because such a book is, it's a non-dual experience. It transcends any sense of relative reality and is a direct vision of the absolute reality. And you must put it into dualistic language in order to tell the story. So he says this is going to be difficult, but this is my best attempt. And we can learn so much about what it means to be human by examining this cosmology of the 6 realms. It's a fascinating teaching piece to reflect upon and to practice with. And the only realm that it's possible to awaken is the human realm. Perhaps only realm that it is possible is a little bit of a overstatement, but not very much. The chances of awakening in any other realm are very, very, very small. But in the human realm, the opportunity to awaken, to just balance your ability to fulfill your needs and pleasure, and balance that against suffering. And in the human realm, he identified 3 distinct types of suffering that I found profound. The first kind of suffering is suffering from impermanence. There is impermanence, and we have no control over how quickly things are burning. So some things we want to last forever, and they don't. They burn up. So we suffer. Other things we want to burn up very quickly, and they don't. It takes them forever to burn up. So we suffer. Then the second kind of suffering is suffering of suffering. This is where we get a little attached to our suffering, right? We get addicted to suffering. Oh, let me tell you how much I'm suffering. Let me tell you the story of my suffering. Oh, woe is me. We all seem to have a tendency to do this for whatever reason. And then the third kind of suffering is I forgot the word that he used. It'll may pop into my mind and it may not. It's the joys of getting older. It was just right here on the tip of my tongue, and it flew away like a bird into the empty sky. Isn't that perfect? I can describe it And maybe the word will come. It doesn't matter. This suffering of suffering is where we get in the habit of suffering. We get attached to the habit of suffering. It seems so human and so normal, and it becomes normal. It becomes the normal. We just assume we're suffering. In the third stage, which is kind of an overbearing of suffering, it's ever-present suffering. That's not the word he used, but it's real close. Conveys the same idea. The all-pervasive suffering is the word that he used. There it is. Pluck the bird out of the sky and put it back on the tongue. All-pervasive suffering. And this is where the habit of suffering becomes so all-pervasive, we can't even imagine what our life would be like without suffering. So suffering of impermanence, suffering of suffering, and all-pervasive suffering. Isn't that brilliant? Such a useful articulation. And I'm a Zen guy. I'm very practical. What I'm interested in doing is benefiting all beings. And I'm constantly looking for methodologies to do that. I'm looking for little things that I can do that will benefit somebody and inspire them, or perhaps help them get an insight. Suddenly the light goes on and they have an insight. That's what Zen is, continually pointing to the moon. Not attached to any outcome. It's none of my business whether your empty boat is flooded with moonlight or it's not, or your suffering continues. It's none of my business. I do the best I can. That's all I can do. And I just trust things to work out the way they need to. And I know that we'll all suffer as long as we need to before we're finally ready to wake up.